stressed and fatigued Zooming educator. We are looking for sources, symptoms, and solutions to all the stress that we've faced during this time. I have my colleagues who worked with me. That's Garima Kamboj and Jasreen. They couldn't be here today because they are presenting in other sessions at the moment. But so we talk about Zoom, we talk about Zoom fatigue in this, and it's ironical that I'm presenting over Zoom. So let me go ahead and start briefly share the presentations outline. I'm going to be talking about the motivation for this particular research. I'm going to introduce the topic to you. There are what really was the problem, what really ended up being the research objectives, a few selected literature reviews, the research design of the model, the results and best practices, and ultimately limitations. Well, I've sort of chosen a few visuals here of what we might have experienced over the last 1.5 years. So we as educators in particular, these visuals and us being a party in these visuals was not very uncommon in the past 1.5 years. So that became the motivation for the research. So a lot has been done and a lot has been said about how has pandemic affected our students, be it international or domestic students. But I mean, at Yorkville, we are certainly doing quite a few things in terms of looking at what educators, what is it that the educators face. But then nonetheless, the stress on how is it that faculty members have been able to adapt has been the stress on that has been rather limited. So after COVID-19, needless to say that world has experienced a tectonic shift. Tectonic is the word that I wanted to use because it has been real shift in the way we have been communicating and working both as individuals, organizations, as well as society. Certainly the use of technology for personal and official communication has increased during the pandemic. And I certainly believe that we do not see that going back. And whether that is use of technology for by the banks or financial institutions for engaging or meeting with their customers, or whether that's use of technology for making the sales pitch to clients who are at different locations across the continent. So I do not see that official communication or the changed official communication sort of going back. There are quite a few video chat apps that have experienced almost about 100% surge in terms of their downloads and usages. A few that I would like to note, and as a faculty member, Teams and Zoom have been very handy, and there have been others, however. So we've sort of ended up forgetting Skype there. There's also something called Slack, and there's House Party. But there has been almost 100% surge in download of these apps. This is a small data point that I wanted to sort of pick up and show regarding the Zoom downloads. And this is global download of video chat apps only for Android and iOS. And certainly we have our systems there wherein a lot of Zoom downloads have happened on multiple systems and multiple devices is what I must say. That's my experience. So please excuse me if I may have. So video conferencing applications have largely been dubbed as the defining technology of the COVID era. And it's not just me, but quite a few researchers are indicating that this technology or this style of communication is going to change industries in particular. Primarily, it has been used in finance, insurance, healthcare, social assistance, and certainly education services industry or education industry in general. Among these, Zoom has been one of the most popular applications, and the number of users on the platform grew largely from about 10 million daily meeting participants in December 2019 to about 300 million by June 2020. One of the big reasons has been that the app is free for us to download, for us to use, and also partly conduct, 20-minute meeting sessions without having to pay for the app. So that's also been one of the biggest reasons for the surge in the downloads of Zoom in particular. I wanted to highlight how much has their revenue grown during the pandemic, and in Q2 you can certainly see the surge here. It was a unicorn before pandemic, but of course their net worth has increased considerably. So of course we had technology as a solution. So what really happens to be the problem? Well, the big problem has been Zoom fatigue. We've gotten sort of used to it over time, but Zoom fatigue or fatigue related to video conferencing. Well, it's also called video call fatigue. Ideally, it should be that, but then it has popularly come to be referred to as Zoom fatigue. It largely constrains people. There were constraints that people had to face because of the need of the hour at that time. There were lockdowns. People could not move as freely as they could. So there were constraints that forced people to adapt technology and rather quickly. But at the same time, it was excessive and compelling. So it led to something that, a lot of people ended up calling the video call fatigue or the Zoom fatigue. So what really is it? Zoom fatigue largely happens to be the feeling of being worn out because of endless virtual meetings, chats, and quizzes, or it is a form of exhaustion from excessive video chatting, video chatting that needs to be done. And educators and students in particular are the ones that are affected because of the longer durations of the meetings during synchronous sessions and excessive use of video conferencing in general. So educators and students certainly are affected considerably. Well, it's not just the educators and students. Even the CEO of Zoom says that he faces Zoom fatigue, and he ended up having some 19 endless meetings. And that's what he quoted to Wall Street Journal thereafter, suggesting that he ended up facing Zoom fatigue. There is CEO of JP Morgan. He started using Office much earlier because he sort of wanted to cancel all Zoom meetings and get back to Office and get back to meeting people. Well, I quite like this quote, which talks about how tired some of the teachers have been because of this mode of distance learning or virtual learning, and they're largely tired because of what's happened in these 1.5 years. There are it has resulted because there are 3 to 4 hours in-person sessions, and they have been shifted to video conferencing, and there has been a lot of additional usage of technology. I can almost discover a new app every single day that tells me how to probably do tasks related to learning activities in my classes better. But then, does it add to the stress of getting to learn how to use that app and getting my students to sort of, get familiar with it? Certainly it does. So psychologists are also attributing that this fatigue and stress is also related to constantly seeing the image of yourself and inability of educators to read body language and respond to the students' requirements, which they could have done during class time. It's also because of seeing giant faces on the screen all the time. Also, teachers have been experiencing a lot of stress because, at least about a year back, it was because of use of unfamiliar technologies. I've been party to some of the meetings wherein the public sector, faculty members from the public sector, a lot of them gave up classes because the technologies were largely unfamiliar. Reinventing familiar lessons and assignments. I have faced this myself, wherein an exam, for example, could have been easily conducted in class. So reinventing and there have been endless discussions on how to do a best exam online and what are the technologies to use, but there hasn't been a real solution, with about quite a few students from UBC ending up being in one of the academic misconducts that was also reported by the newspapers. There's a lot of troubleshooting. Well, technology can fail you as well, and you may end up being in class 5 to 10 minutes late because you've not been able to log in well. There have been loads of emails, and ultimately managing your personal lives on the side has also been rather tricky. So what really ended up being the need for the research, academic research addressing Zoom fatigue and stress related to remote teaching is either limited or not available. And this has been based on a lot of search that was done across several library databases using different keywords. Existing research also does not aim to create a scale to measure Zoom fatigue or teacher stress as a consequence of excessive use of technology during pandemic. These were the research objectives: to assess the impact of shift from face-to-face to virtual teaching or virtual synchronous delivery. We call it remote synchronous delivery here at Yorkville, on educators during COVID, to examine what have been the dimensions of remote teaching fatigue and its sources and symptoms, and ultimately to create a standard scale to assess teacher stress and fatigue related to virtual synchronous delivery. Why so? Because such a scale would certainly help in developing, in learning better or dealing with the teachers better in the near future. So those were the research objectives. Certainly, there's no looking back. We would definitely go forward from here in terms of how much virtual synchronous delivery might happen in the near future. So when we found some, when we started reviewing the literature for developing a scale, we found a few related studies. So there's Fowell et al. They conducted a research to create and validate Zoom exhaustion and fatigue scale. So there is certainly something called Zoom exhaustion and fatigue scale. It examines the psychological effects and mechanisms of video conferencing. It was developed through a qualitative study, which was initially conducted to find out the scale items and was eventually tested using quantitative analysis. There are 5 dimensions of fatigue that they came up with eventually. So there's general fatigue, there's social, emotional, visual, as well as motivational fatigue that could result. So Zoom exhaustion and fatigue scale does exist now, right? The results ended up concluding that frequency of meetings, the duration of meetings, burstiness of meetings, so the bursts of having many meetings at a time and then of course none at all at other times, were associated with higher levels of fatigue. Fatigue was also associated with negative attitudes towards these meetings, and there has been a lot of turbulence across organizations, and this turbulence is across all organizations wherein people are deciding to change careers, change jobs, and so on. So another study, it sort of, wanted to study the effect of the gender-based differences on fatigue experienced by, by different people. So they wanted to test association between these, between 5 nonverbal mechanisms and Zoom fatigue. And what were these nonverbal mechanisms? So there was something called mirror anxiety. I'm going to talk more about that just in a while. People having a feeling of being physically trapped. On the lighter side, like all of my colleagues here are at the moment. So, or for that matter, even hypergaze, and a lot of cognitive load, which comes from producing and interpreting the nonverbal cues. So results that they came up with indicated that daily usage predicts the amount of fatigue. So how much do you Zoom daily affects how fatigued you feel. Women end up having longer meetings, shorter breaks, and that leads to fatigue. There are 5 nonverbal mechanisms to predict fatigue. We are going to talk about those. And mirror anxiety, that is having the video camera on or off, determines how much fatigue is experienced. And then, of course, it varies across race, age, gender. So some of the demographic variables also influence that. There's another research that pointed out these 5 nonverbal mechanisms. So there was something that was referred to as mirror anxiety. This gets triggered by seeing your own selves during the meeting and you seem to be omnipresent, and seeing yourself during the meeting all the time can impact social interactions. So, however, as faculty members, switching off the camera is not an option. So switching off the camera may not really be an option, and that may end up teaching or faculty members experiencing a lot of mirror anxiety. There's a lot of us feel physically trapped, so we need to stay within the field or the view of the camera. So in face-to-face meetings, we can move, stretch, and sort of, change our gaze to direct our gaze to people who are talking, but video conferences do restrict mobility. That's the feeling of physically being trapped. There's hyper gaze, other people looking at you. So a lot of eyes facing you, or a lot of people looking at you constantly. And then there's a cognitive load of managing nonverbal behavior. I've personally experienced that a lot in my own classes, wherein, there's a constant need to engage students and contribute to interpersonal communications, making sure that you are giving them adequate tasks and getting them to perform as well. So those are all nonverbal cues that were also pointed out by Bellinson. What was our model? We conducted an exploratory research. Scope was limited to exploration of the dimensions of remote teaching stress related with these use of video conferencing applications, and outcome would be a conceptual framework and ultimately a scale to measure teacher stress and fatigue related to virtual synchronous delivery. So this was the initial conceptual model that was developed, which was primarily related to preliminary examination of various articles explaining fatigue. And at that, when we started the research, the number of articles was largely, non-academic literature. And couple of them pointed out that nonverbal communication, lack of nonverbal communication, lack of providing instant interaction or feedback, attitude that people had towards technology, training and personal factors attributed to a lot of stress or fatigue that people were, faculty members were feeling. Then there's also something called teacher stress inventory. The scale was developed back in 1988. It does have some very good elements that we could have considered, so we use that. And we also believe that fatigue is the function of how much workload do we have, workload related to assessments, a lot of administrative tasks. I think these start only once your day ends. And ultimately there are irregular work hours and perceived jobs. I should have added managing your personal life also, on the side here. The scales that we've considered, like I said, Fowell et al., they developed an extremely nice scale, which is the Zoom exhaustion and fatigue scale. So we use that. What are the dimensions of the scale? There's general fatigue. How tired do you feel after video conferencing? How mentally drained you are? How blurred does the vision get? How much irritated or how much your eyes hurt afterwards? Avoiding social situations, or wanting to be alone after. This certainly happens after the end of the day. You do not want to be engaged with others around you. How much time do you need for yourself to sort of to feel yourself after you've ended your day? And
Iman, I'm sorry to barge in, but we are at 5 to 12. So we have about 5 minutes left for the question period. No, it's my fault. I should have broken in earlier.
No, not a problem. And then certainly there's the emotional fatigue that's associated. There's another scale. There are 7 dimensions of the scale. So there's task-related stress, supervisory supports, life satisfaction, job satisfaction, and then of course, role-related stress that faculty members also feel. I would have discussed some of these items, but this is a 36-item scale that we ended up using. Ultimately, the dimensions that we propose after research. So I would have discussed these, but then for the lack of time, I'll just talk about the proposed scale. So we wanted to study the impact of these novel technologies on educators or the faculty members and the stress that they experience. So use of novel technologies or video conferencing and other tools happens to impact the stress experienced by, or the fatigue experienced by faculty in general. We've broken down these into 2 broad factors: person and profession related stress and organizational dynamics. Person and professional related stress could be related to your role, task, life satisfaction in general, workload and work hours, and then organizational dynamics related to the management, supervisory support, and other factors related to job satisfaction. Mediators we've considered as personal factors. So your gender, your attitude towards technology adoption and training that one may have received may be mediators in also impacting what people experience. So what really would be the next set of items after, next steps after we are done developing? We are going to adapt the items from existing and chosen scales. We are going to conduct pre-testing for the scale. We are going to create a scale for measurement and validate that as well. And ultimately end up conducting research in the cross-cultural settings. Last slide here, some of the limitations. The scope of the present research happens to be creating a scale, and the outcome is limited to development of a scale based on qualitative data. It needs to be pre-tested using quantitative data. I just sort of spoke about that as the next step. The dimension of teacher stress may vary across cultures and across cultural settings. So one may have to, those studies are limited. One may have to explore those as well. And then factors other than video conferencing tools may also impact teacher stress. Well, these are a few selected references that we have. And I would certainly like to thank the team for giving us the opportunity to share our thoughts here, and certainly happy teaching and learning.